while they're doing that, make sure your mic is on. There's a power button on the bottom. Or do we need the mics? Josh?
Yeah, that's part of my plan. We got like.
I'd like to call the reorganizational meeting of the Iroquois Central School District to order. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order up is the oath of office from board member Jim Lightfoot. Read that.
I, James Lightfoot, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of school board member of the Iroquois Board of Education according to the best of my ability.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The superintendent of the Schofield will say this oath of office.
I, Douglas R. Schofield, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the superintendent of the Iroquois Central School District according to the best of my ability. No, good. Yeah, I don't know. What's my name?
Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Next, we will have nominations for President of the Board of Education.
And I would nominate Jane Coleman.
Any other nominations? Can I have a motion?
Motion, to what James person.
Second. All in favor?
I, Jane Sullivan, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of New York State, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of President of the Iroquois Board of Education according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And with that, we move on to nominations for Vice President.
I would like to nominate Heather.
Edward Jacobs, any other nominations? Okay, can we have a motion? Go ahead, Jim. Do it.
I nominate other vice president.
Second.
Second. Okay, all in favor? That's everyone.
You sure? No.
Congratulations, Heather.
Congratulations.
I, Henry Jacobs, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Vice President of the Iroquois Board of Education according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Okay, so next on the agenda is to appoint board members to specific positions to fill for district committees and the ECSD committees. So we'll take a look at that first.
2.29.
2.5, there we go. So the first one is delegate to Erie County Association of School Boards. Last year it was Heather.
I don't mind doing it.
Okay. And then a delegate for the, or I'm sorry, an alternate delegate for the Erie County Association of School Boards. Okay. Great. And then a representative to Erie County Association of School Boards Legislative. Last year it was Michelle, so we need somebody to step up and take that over. Jim. All right. And then we need an alternate for the legislative. Louise, that was you last year.
I wish I could know the dates ahead of time.
They're already listed in their calendar, I'll give them to you. Okay. Representative to the Erie County Association of School Boards Finance and Budget Committee. Last year was John. And then an alternate for the Finance Committee. Wow, great, thanks, Bob. And then we have the Iroquois Education Representative, the Board of Education Representative to the School Audit Committee. Last year it was Michelle.
This is an individual that needs to be job.
Yeah. Okay, Louise.
Yeah.
Louise, okay. And then a representative to the District Wellness Committee.
Last year that was Louise.
And then the Wall of Fame Committee, that was me. If there's somebody else who would like to do it, I'm willing to give that up. Wow, okay.
This is not the athletic one, this is the academic one.
Then we do have the athletic one, that's the next one, Louise. And then we have It Takes a Community. That was me last year. So we'll take that one. Okay. Those are all the ones that need discussion? Okay. And this is not going to be a consensus agenda.
No, we do each other.
Yeah. So we need a resolution to appoint the following individuals for,
Section.
section 3, all of section 3, right?
Three points for it.
Second?
Hold on.
He can motion that's not voting for it.
Yeah, I can make a motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I will be abstaining from this,
So,
No.
Would you want to abstain from it because you have
yes,
a
yes, yes.
And just to be clear to everyone, there's no requirement that they abstain, it's just the practice of this district, that if someone has a spouse in an area, that they don't vote.
Okay. All in favor? Noes? And abstains? Okay, that motion carries. That brings us to 4. A resolution to designate official bank depositories.
so moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Are there any differences in the banks, John?
No changes.
All in favor? Opposed? And the motion carries. Resolution to designate official school newspaper. Second.
Second.
Discussion. I will be abstaining because I work for the Owner Review and East Roy Advertising. Anyone else? Okay. All in favor? Opposed and abstains. Okay. Number 6, resolution of authorizations.
So moved.
Second. Jim? Discussion.
There's 2 changes on here. one for petty cash funds in the district office that used to be broken into 3 areas for $100 each, total $300. We didn't feel that was efficient, so we've actually reduced it from 300 to 200 and just used district office as one general group rather than business office, special ed, and superintendent's office. And the other change that we were looking at is 6112, which authorizes the superintendent or designee to approve capital project change orders up to 10% total cost of the project with individual change orders not to exceed 35,000. It used to be 20,000. 10,000 or the 10% is the same as before. The reason for the change is just cost inflation. The $20,000 has been there for 10 years, 15.
I would say
Good 10 years. But that's actually what the state education department also uses for, that's how we came up with the number, what they use for review was $35,000. And that's also recommended by Campus Construction, which is our construction managers for the project.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, resolution to approve school co-sponsored student and community organizations and waive building use fees.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Any changes in there?
No changes that I know of, and I'm hoping that they start using the facilities again with COVID, changing the requirements for that.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Facilities use charges.
Yeah, okay, so facility use charge number 8.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
So I guess CPI change the rates, just increase 3 to 4%, different things there.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Number 9, resolution to approve the approved voting devices and to designate the annual budget vote and board election.
So moved.
Put you down as first.
I'll second.
Discussion. Looks like our vote will be on Tuesday, May 9th, of 2023.
The vote is actually May 16th. The budget hearing is on May 9th.
Thank you. Well, May 9th is important too, folks.
They should, because that really, you as we can voice your opinion on the vote.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Number 10, the Board of Education renews and reaffirms all existing and revised board policies and regulations.
So moved.
Discussion.
Just so the board knows and the public, we will continue working with the Iroquois BOCES to policy committee to continually have all policies reviewed, looking at the changes in laws and recommendations. Will keep coming to the board all year long on updating the policies. I appreciate the board at multiple meetings reading those and then voting on them.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Number 11, Board of Education adopts and renews the Code of Conduct for 2022-2023.
Was there any changes to that in the last year?
Oh, yeah, they were highlighted.
Second, sorry.
Okay, now discussion.
Yeah, they were highlighted. If you open up in your things in red in the your administrative file, it has the divisions in red in there, so you can look through them. And thank you to the committee for getting together and really looking at that and updating it as society changes, and we need to keep going through that. One of the big changes is in the high school, with COVID, they were allowing students to use backpacks, and they're going to be reverting away from that, back to their lockers and everything. Which also should help with socialization, because now they're at their lockers, they're by their own room, and they kind of have students were on this committee too, as part of this and talking about it. Should they do more of a socialization aspect too?
All in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Number 12, the Board of Education adopts and renews the athletic handbook for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
The big one in here I would point out is the dual sports. They really looked at that, especially with flag football for girls, of how that is. They have a committee that there's any question in how students designate a major sport and a minor sport. But that's a new advent that's been coming through sports, and so they took care of that. So thank you for that committee.
All in favor? Motion carried unanimously. 13, the Board of Education renews and adopts the professional development plan for its annual adoption with the addition of the 2022-2023 district goals upon Board of Education approval. Motion. Discussion.
Just to reiterate that, this is the professional development plan put together by a committee of teachers and administrators from across the district. It also includes all of the acceptable CTOE presenters, which is about 60 pages, that teachers can take classes from and earn CTOE credits.
All in favor? Motion carried unanimously.
Committees, resolution.
Yeah. This one.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution to appoint the 2022-2023 members for the following committees.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
The first four of them have to do with, you don't have a list of people on the committees because they modify depending on the student who comes in. They have to have a general ed teacher or special ed teacher, and since the students' teachers may vary throughout any one of the district, that's why you see general terms for those positions and not specific. It's position oriented, depending on the child for the first four. The rest of them you have the members' names.
All in favor? Motion carried unanimously. And 15, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education affirm its membership in the following cooperatives for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
With these, and I'll look to John, but I think these are areas we go because it helps us in saving funds because we are self-funded or we are buying right from the trading for the energy.
Stolen thunder. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? 16, the superintendent recommends the approval of the continued use of the Omni Group as the third-party provider for the district's 403B and 457 plans.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Have we looked around at any other plans at all? I know we, periodically review all our insurances.
We have not, in a while, I don't know if there's very many out there to look at. Besides Dominique, I mean, pretty much handles, I think, all the schools in Western New York, so I'll look, but there's other competitors out there I'll see, but
Is it the kind of thing that can be changed during the school year?
I think so.
So if you found something that was,
If I find something, I'll look.
all in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the following resolution.
No, but I would clarify that this is for us to participate with Niagara, Orleans, BOCES, I believe the first one is.
Okay. Yes. Motion? Second? Discussion. So, yeah, so it allows us to work with the Niagara, Orleans, Erie County, Erie, Chautauqua, Cataraqui County, BOCES.
Well, the first one's just Niagara, Orleans, now we have the second one for Erie 1, and then we have a third one for Erie 2.
I see, okay.
And by law, we do have to participate in Erie 2, but it's, this is how we return state aid back. Because by working with BOCES, we get 60% back on most items as an average.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. So that brings us to 18, to
Erie 1.
the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the following resolution for us to be numbered in Erie 1 BOCES.
So moved.
Discussion. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And then 19, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the following resolution. It is for us to be able to work with Erie 2 BOCES.
So moved.
Discussion.
I guess it's important to point out with Erie 2, there are other BOCES throughout the state that we work with, that are social monitoring services with other BOCES. But why we don't have to do a resolution to do that is because we go through Erie 2 with a cross contract to get to those BOCES.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. The superintendent recommends the district participate in federal and or state and or county and or other school district bid contracts.
So moved.
Discussion.
Fancy word is piggybacking, you want to
So,
explain
yeah,
it?
just another way to make sure we get less price for things, we can use other people's bidding process and feedback on that. if we want.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. The superintendent recommends the board approve the following resolution regarding
This is the federal government donated foods. So moved.
discussion.
What exactly does that mean, government funding?
Well, they often refer to it as if you, for us older people, like the federal cheese program, or the federal has the gun. We get like chicken and other products for our food service from the federal government. In order to accept them, we have to pass a resolution to accept these federal funds, or sorry, the federal foods. We also get federal funds, but we don't have to have a resolution for that one. I don't quite, this is one of the resolutions, I just don't understand why we have to approve accepting food from the federal government. I would think that would be okay without a resolution. But we have to, so we do it.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
And the children think they love the chicken nuggets. They do.
Number 22, the superintendent recommends the authorization of pay rates to be established for the 2022-2023 school year as follows.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
I'm not saying,
Okay.
We had talked at different times about checking the athletic trainer rate to make sure that it's competitive. And
I think John will talk about that, which I think we actually don't have a trainer anymore, we go outside sales.
Now we contract for those services, so there's very few circumstances where we need to sub in for them. If they have additional coverage, if one, the main person's not here, they provide sub essentially, so. We put it on here still just in case, but we don't anticipate using the sub.
okay.
We have an athletic trainer, but we do it through a contract, I can't think of the name of it, it's sort of UB.
PT, is what that, yeah. A contract service we've been using and last year worked very well. 2 weeks of last year? Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed and abstains? Thank you. Number 23, the superintendent recommends the authorization of substitute pay rates to be established for the 2022-2023 school year as follows.
So moved.
Second.
Sure.
Discussion.
Just when they,
Go ahead.
just to come up with the numbers, do they, like the market search? Is that-
Basically, we do sit down and look at the contract rates that we have for employees, coming up in the new year. We try to stay below the start rates and things like that, so we were conscious of that, we look at the market of what areas we have problems with and staffing, and what areas we don't have staffing issues with, and try to find that middle ground, in everybody.
Yeah, and then for the ones that we are having trouble, we do look to other districts and see if they're having success in it and what their rates are. So we do have comparisons going on, but we don't compare every single one every year. All depends on which ones are causing the
So
concerns.
those are the ones that are good, we kind of adjust accordingly, ones that are problems, and this is what.
Yeah, so like last year, January, John, we were having trouble with substitute teachers. John came forward, did a research, and then we adjusted that one, which is why we're not adjusting the substitute teachers for this year, because we just did it in actually, we did it this year in January, just not this school year.
How does the teacher aid clerical, do you say clerical, because the teacher aid, is that only contract?
Oh, it's because they're at the same rate.
It's-
Yeah. So they're different positions, they're on different sub lists, but they're at the same rate.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. 24, the superintendent recommends the substitute teacher and teacher assistant pay rates are established for the 2022-2023 school year as follows.
So moved.
Discussion.
Are the changes highlighted on this one, or are they just all the same?
They're all the same, because we just did it in January, so we didn't change anything from January.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. 25, we're looking at superintendent recommendations for mileage rates.
Yep, this is when someone rents a bus, car, or van. And they did, obviously, they did go up this year.
Second?
Yeah, the question, does that include fuel costs, or are they responsible for fuel costs?
I think it does include,
It doesn't.
But does not include driver.
Right, yeah, but this is strictly for the vehicle. How we sitting given the price of fuel?
where, in this rate or?
Yeah, in
It's
this
built into
rate.
this rate, so it did go up according to what the current market rates are.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. 26, the repair reserve fund.
So moved.
Discussion.
And just to remind everyone, we create a repair reserve every year at this time, so that when we get to the budget season, if we choose to ask the voters to fund one, that's when we would do it. So there's no funding in it, if the voters vote on that. This might be a year that we actually do that, because we typically run with 3 of them, and we've expended, of the 3, we've expended all of one in part of this.
One left.
We have 1 left. So therefore, this is going to be a year to do that.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
As far as repair reserve fund, with the new turf field that'll be coming in, is there like a guarantee on it? Do we have to build anything in like for periodic upgrades and stuff like that, or is it repair fund?
The repair reserve would not be used, well, it could be used for it. So how you use repair reserve is for unanticipated something breaking. So if, like right now, we're using this camera because the server broke. So that's something that could fall under the repair reserve. to fix that. Replacing the turf, that's something we would do under the capital project reserve because that's anticipated, it has a life. And so therefore we have to plan out, we have to start putting money in reserve, which is why later this month or early August, once we have worked with the auditors, we'll see how much money we want to put into different reserves, capital reserve being one of them. In terms of your question on a warranty on the field, yes, the new field does come with a warranty, but if there are certain things that wouldn't be covered, so if one of our people were fluffing it, I think it's called, grooming it, then they were to rip it because they did something careless, that wouldn't be covered under a warranty, but that then could be covered under a repair reserve because that would be an unanticipated breakage.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. 27 is the sole source providers. Second. Discussion.
What does the guide heating system be? On the agenda?
Oh, that was in the statement.
Oh, okay.
I think that was something that was left on for the notes, so, and I can explain why that was on there. So I will give you an answer as part of discussion. Very good, Cassie, that's a question that should be asked. John's house is cold. What it is for sole source, and we put these on each year even though we don't have to. Once you declare something as a sole source, that says we don't go out for bid for it. And the reason you do a sole source is, and I'll take the ClearTrack student data services, we don't want to be switching every single year for what we use for ClearTrack, for what we use for that data system. Or the sound field system usually on here. We don't want to keep changing products. So why John, the heating system is on here is because we use a DDC, a digital control system, and we go through Johnson Control for that. So we don't want to start working in one building and have one company for one building, one company for another building, or this wing in this building and that, or this wing for this company and that wing. So that we look to what is cost effective for having sole source or one provider providing this, so we have consistent, equal equipment in all the buildings. And we put it on here every year, so the board is aware of which ones we're doing, where they're doing it, and then 10 years later, someone's saying, well, what are we using for sole source? Just so the public's aware, it's transparent, and everyone can see it.
Now, I realize it's a mistake. Can we just cross that out? Is that on the official? Because it doesn't look like we're voting on that team.
Sit down and kiss them.
It's on board docs.
What's the question? Sorry, I missed the part of the question.
Heating system, it's on mine,
It's in the public one.
Is it on the public one? That's not the public one that I read to.
One that's the doors.
Oh,
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no.
If this
Yeah,
is the public
it's
one,
on
it's
the
not on.
public. Let's check this, it's on.
Come back for his heating system.
Because if it is, we should, I can make it clear, I think it's clear, but we can take a motion to, that's not part of it, it's only the bulleted items. So we're going to check that to see if it's on the public agenda. It is
27?
27,
It's when I want.
but it's a typo that would have to come off either way.
It is, but it is on the public.
I'd like to make a motion to
But
amend
it's not.
item 27 to remove the verbiage John needs. So
And by heating system, we mean school heating system. We got a motion. No, it's good.
Okay, so Chuck's made that motion, can I have a second? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Now we can vote on the sole source providers as amended. Chuck's motion, Jim seconds, discussion.
I just want, you mentioned the athletic trainers are contracted out. Is that also a sole source, or how do we come up with that?
Nope.
That's just a contract.
We could go to anyone for that if we want.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously as amended. 28 is the recommendation for the standard workday, last year only.
Oh, it's the same as last year. What last year only means is the same as last year.
Okay.
So it's for this coming year, but it's the same as last year.
So moved.
Discussion.
I will be abstaining from this, because of the position.
All in favor? Opposed and abstains. And 29, gives us our list of qualified lead evaluators. So, second. Discussion.
This is so we can fulfill the requirements for the annual professional performance review.
All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And then last, the superintendent recommends the approval of the following resolution for certified qualified.
That's the same one, that's 29, that's 29 too.
It's different people.
That's 29-1, this is for doing administrators, and then the second one is 29-2, which is for the principals doing the teaching.
Okay, got it.
So you're all set, you got that covered.
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
Is
it's
one-
on 29.
It's a second resolution.
the second?
Yeah, but you said approval of qualified leaders, 29, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have this here too.
Okay.
Do we want to
We'll
do-
do it, yeah, good,
Let's-
good.
let's
Of
follow
course.
up.
I get a second.
So moved. Thank you, Sharon.
Second.
Sharon, move us along.
This one's for principals.
Sharon's job is here to keep us going.
All in favor?
Good luck.
Motion carries unanimously. All right. And that concludes our reorganizational meeting. Now we move on to our special board meeting. I call that meeting to order now at 8:39 a.m. Welcome to all who have come to observe the Board of Education, the Iroquois Central School Board of Education meeting. There are 2 periods of recognition of guests listed on the meeting agenda. The first is for comments regarding agenda items. The second is for topics not on the agenda. The speakers may offer comments related to school operations and programs, but the board cannot hear personnel complaints against any individual associated with the school system. Please address these concerns to the appropriate administrator. If you wish to be recognized, please fill out the appropriate form and turn it into the district clerk. As per policy 1514, public participation at board meetings, public comment by district residents is limited to 15 minutes total, unless the board suspends this limit. Each person is given up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Additionally, no more than 3 people may speak on a single topic unless the board also waives this limitation. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not engage in dialogue with members of the community this morning. District personnel will follow up with you regarding your concerns. Rest assured, we are listening carefully and take seriously what you have to say. Please demonstrate respect by speaking to the issues, sharing your ideas and opinions, but not engaging in personal attacks. The board appreciates your willingness to share your concerns and celebrations. Please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. The recording will be posted on your website. That we have Kevin Bird from Iroquois BOCES, who's going to present on our annual safety plan. Take it away, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. Kevin Bird from Iroquois BOCES. We provide health, safety, and risk management services to Iroquois Central on an annual basis, and we're glad to be continuing that mutually beneficial partnership this coming school year. One of the things we are required to do annually is have a public hearing and a 30-day public comment period on your district level safety plan, and that's what we're going to discuss this morning. I do have some slides. This will be very brief, but I do have a few PowerPoint slides that I think will be projected on the screen to my left.
And the technology said 1 second, they're giving them up.
Okay. Essentially, it just mentions that it's a brief discussion about the district level plan and what in fact that is. The district level safety plan is a relatively generic document. It's a very important document, it's a valid document, but it's a public document, and that's the important thing to keep in mind with it. I often say that the football team doesn't publish their playbook on the district website, so we don't publish the meat and potatoes of our safety plan on the district website because we don't want that information available for someone who might be considering doing harm to the district. So, not that there isn't some valid information in that plan, in the district level plan. It's a lengthy plan, about 170 pages, but it is published on the district website annually. So, that's okay.
While we're pulling that up, just want to remind the public that at the last board meeting, we did go over with the board just different safety features that we have in the district in terms of how we enter the building, the hardened windows, the new security system that we're putting in where anyone can press a button. There was a new law, not a law. There was a recommendation about a silent, from the governor about having a silent panic button that people could press. We did have discussions with administration and safety on that, including our SRO, and we all feel that having a silent button is not prudent. The reason is if something is happening, we want everyone to know so action can be taken. We did, and actually with the one safety committee, we talked about it, trying to come up with scenarios where someone might be in a situation they're uncomfortable with, where you would want a safety one or a silent one. But really, we feel having everyone notice, having that person press it would be the most advantageous to get people coming to the situation, just so the board is aware of that.
And just to comment on that, I will say that I've been here for a number of years. Iroquois has always been kind of on the leading edge of district safety and security, especially from the physical things that you've done. You were the first district that I know of, or any of the districts I have in Erie One anyway, to install the lock sets on the doors, and those are huge. As we've seen over and over again when these instances occur, the key is to having secured locked facilities, especially classroom doors. And in fact, in the history of all of the school shootings that have in fact occurred, not once has a secured locked door been breached. Never. The individuals aren't looking for a fight. They know they have a very limited amount of time. They're moving quickly. And I think you'll notice that, especially in the recent ones we've seen, the issues have been unlocked classroom doors. So we've installed those locks, and we encourage our teachers here and everywhere to keep their classroom doors locked and secure.
So everyone can open it on the website. It's open right now.
Great.
Up on that screen right there.
It's on the screen, so you're on slide 2.
So great. So I'll go through this relatively quickly, and I can forward this if it wants to be. If you want to put it on the website, it's fine. No issue with that. But as I mentioned, this is a result of the state legislation that was passed in 2000, subsequent to Columbine, and that legislation required school districts and BOCES to take a number of steps to ensure school safety, including developing all hazard district-wide safety plans, as well as building-level emergency response plans. We had to establish district-wide and building-level emergency response teams. We have to coordinate with law enforcement, which you obviously do here with Officer Plato. Districts are required to develop and implement policies and procedures for annual school safety training for staff and students. We conduct that annually. And in 2016, which was actually some time ago now, legislation was added that required annual violence prevention and mental health training for all staff. Oh, could you advance?
Advances.
Thank you. So I mentioned the district-wide safety plan. Did that advance? No. gonna peek over.
There it is.
Oh, it's-
We had a server go down, just so everyone knows, it's clear what's happening, is we had a server go down last night that takes care of this room, so that's why we have a different projector here that we're projecting from, and, so we do apologize for that, and I know technology is working on that. Not typical.
Thank goodness they're here. This is how technology usually works when I.
So you're.
Well, next time we're not gonna invite you, because I do not like servers going down.
Thank you, Mr. Jakes.
What we're saying, no, that's being linked.
So again, the district-wide school safety plans, as I mentioned, are public documents. As I said, they're valid, they're important, they contain the things listed in those bullet points. How we contact law enforcement in the event of emergency, how we contact parents, guardians, and persons in parental relation if there's an emergency or an early dismissal. How are we going to utilize our school safety officers and security devices as appropriate? What are the appropriate responses to emergencies? What do our staff and students do in the case of any emergency? How do we respond to acts of violence, implied or direct threats by students to others, or faculty, or staff, or anyone else in the building? And how do we notify parents if their child is planning on doing harm to themselves or thinking about committing suicide? And that is required now per regulation. All right, can you advance, please? Thank you. I'm going to peek over your shoulder to delay. I did mention the generic characteristic of the district level plan. So folks will often ask, well, where's the meat and potatoes? Where's the important stuff? Where's all of the information that administrators and building administrators need to know? That's housed in the building level emergency response plans. Those documents are confidential, and they are not subject to disclosure under Article 6 of the Public Officers Law. They include the things that we don't want made public, okay? Our emergency response teams, who's on those teams? Cell phone numbers of our building administrators, our district administrators. Where are our evacuation locations? On campus, off campus. There's primary and secondary locations for each of those. Our chain of command, who is going to fulfill what duty and responsibility in different types of emergencies. All of that information is contained in our building level emergency plans. Again, they're confidential. You won't see them. I don't see them. The only people that really see them are your building administrators, your district administrators, and the building level emergency team. They work quite a bit on these over the summer. I often meet with principals regarding them, just to talk about any changes that may have taken place over the course of the year. They are required to be submitted to state annually by October 1.
I was just going to say that the state does, we do submit to the state does review.
Yes, they do, and given recent events, as strange as it may sound, they actually do review them now. You know, there was a period where, they were submitted, and maybe someone saw them, perhaps they did. But they do review those annually, and we have a very good relationship with the individual involved that looks at those, and we speak to her a couple times a year, just about different questions and concerns. So that's a great resource for us to have. So again, just know that those plans exist. Know that your building administrators and their teams are working on them now. And they contain all of that information that we need to respond quickly and efficiently in case of emergency. I think there was one more slide. And this one just was something that changed last year that we are continuing with this year. You may recall last year during the pandemic or post, as we were exiting the pandemic, districts were required to come up with continuity of operations plan. So, kind of what would we do in the case of a crazy situation where we had to close all of our buildings for a year or two? How would we?
Now that we've done,
Yeah.
Now that we've done it, we're pretty much going to do what we did.
Yes, which is interesting because a number of years ago when I started in policies, this was a big topic. We may have been a business official back then. We talked about continuity of operations. And what would you do if you had to close for 6 months or a year? How would you pay your people? How would you pay your vendors? How would you accept money? Who was going to do all this remotely? How would we do it? And those plans were never really completed because it was very difficult, no one could figure out how, lo and behold, it happened. So,
Was it
preparing,
necessity is the mother of invention?
preparing the plan this time around was quite simple because we just said what we did. So again, that will continue, that amendment continues. The way that the state knows that we have this plan and that it's accurate is they say, you know what, you're gonna tack it on to, as an appendix to your district level safety plan. So when we see the district level plan, we'll see that you have that as well. So just know that your pandemic continuity of operations plan, is there, it's in effect, it's an excellent plan, and it just reviews basically what you did during the pandemic. How are we gonna take care of our people, pay people, accept money, pay vendors, who's crucial employees, critical employees, that sort of thing. Okay? And that's it. It's again, the plan is available for public comment for 30 days. You will then approve the plan at your meeting in the end of August, or sometime in
Yep,
August.
late August.
Late August, and then it will be posted to the district website. Superintendent will let state head know the URL on that website. We see this information in September. Okay?
I just have a question.
Yes.
I remember in the last school shooting, they said that the room was locked, but then nobody had a key to open it so that the officers could go in.
Yeah.
I don't want to expose it all to the public, but how do we have a plan to open those doors?
Yeah, we've had a plan for 10 to 15 years of how to take that out. We have certain keys, lockbox with codes. There's certain individuals that the police have contact with immediately, but while they're coming here, so when they get here, they have immediate access to keys. And they're not hard keys, they're digital keys, so we can change those in case there's any type of reason. That, you know, regular key cards that we have here, they become inactive, so therefore we would take that into account.
I have a question too. It's, I should just because you're next to this, but I think it's a huge accomplishment of the district being the ones that have done that blocking. So I think that's really a good deal. And you said that in all, like, no school shootings have locked doors been breached? No. But I assume I want to assume that's what I'm checking, most or all the policy was to have the doors locked, but to lock it manually?
That is actually a district level decision, and sometimes a building level decision. It varies from district to district.
When they're aware of an incident.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's in your district level plan, the response in a lockdown. And in a lockdown, directive in there is teachers immediately close and lock the building.
So that's right.
The time
Well,
difference.
that's such a huge time difference, and that was one of the concerns of implementing these. It took us about 3 months working with the teachers to say this is the best way to have it happen. Because if you think about it, using a key, you see this in movies too. Using the key is very easy in your car to use, but then you see the person in the movie who's scared, runs to their car, and fumbling with their keys, they drop them. We don't want people in that situation of having to do fine motor skills in a panic situation. That's why our doors are always locked. That's the doors. Make sure they're shut. That's all you have to do.
And even if they're shut, what prevents somebody from getting in and just.
Ideally, we hope the classroom doors are shut and locked at all times.
Well, they are locked at all times.
Yeah, so, ideally, in past instances where these situations have occurred, the individuals are moving quickly through a building. They know they have a very limited amount of time, they're not looking for a fight. So they found that if they come upon a locked door, they continue on until they find one that's open. I hope I sort of addressed what.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and one of the, not to interrupt, but one of the most powerful sessions I ever attended at the New York State School Board Association was on school safety and training, and it was fascinating. There was a lot of detailed information, but some of it's not all out there. It was a discussion, it was very good. So if you see one of those.
Know that your buildings are required to conduct 4 lockdown drills annually. Most districts have one per quarter. Again, it's up to the district and the building administrator, the principals, but most of them do one per quarter. Those were still required during COVID. State ed did give districts and buildings some wiggle room as far as how they were conducted because of social distancing concerns. We hope to see the return of regular lockdown drills this coming school year, although there are ways to accomplish them within the regulations of COVID. It certainly can be done. But we hope to see the traditional means of those return post-COVID. So just know that, you know, especially the little ones, they do learn what to do, fortunately or unfortunately, it's the world we live in now. But they do learn what to do if that guy enters.
We actually even started those before the state requirement. We were practicing them already in the Iroquois, so therefore, when the state put that in place, it wasn't a change for us. I forget the number we were doing, but we meet the state regulations, no problem.
My question, is lockdown the same as active shooter training?
I think you could say so. In New York State, the response word we use now is lockdown, and that is the response used when there is an immediate threat to the life, health, and safety inside your building. And once upon a time, districts had all different kinds of words, code yellow, code red, code blue, code orange. They would call out with the PA, where's my flip chart, what's code orange mean? You may remember, Mr. Rush, your pizza's in the office. And lunatics would run through the hall one night. We were afraid of scaring the kids, and they found that it was confusing for students and staff, visitors, traveling teachers. So New York State, and now in fact much of the country, has adopted plain language responses: lockdown, lockout, shelter in place, and evacuation. And so, yeah, lockdown, synonymous with active shooter. That's the word we assume and we hope we never hear, but we hope for the best and we plan and drill for the worst.
So the children are educated with what each one means?
That's correct. For the most part, the students are mainly educated on lockdown, because that's the most important one. Shelter in place is used all the time. That's used to gain quick control of the building. Say we have a student that's being taken out of the nurse's office by ambulance, or a staff member or a student might be down in the hallway or somewhere we don't want traffic in that area. The principal gets on the PA, calls shelter in place. We're going to restrict movement in the hallway or in this area of the building. Teaching continues in the classroom. Lockout is a situation, you're in a state of lockout most of the time anyway. Your exterior doors are always locked. But say somebody holds up the gas station up the street, they're on the loose, we don't know where they are. Principal might get a call, you know, my ex-husband has been drinking, he's irate, he says he's going to school, he wants to see the kids. In a situation where a lockout would be called over the PA, we affirm that our exterior doors are locked, and we ask the teachers on the first floor to lock their windows, lock their windows. But the threat is outside the building, so activity in the building continues as normal. We educate, kids move around, they go to lunch, they go to the gym, etc. And evacuation, think fire drill. So lockdown and fire drill are the two for the students, training for the students.
Thank you for that summary.
I find it very interesting, the concept of lockout, because with recent incidents in Buffalo and that, I got questions about, well, are you preventing visitors from coming in the building without being notified they're coming in here? And I'm like, well, I don't understand the question. The reason I didn't understand it is because we're always in lockout. All the external doors are locked. If you're coming in, you have to have an appointment. You have to let us know. You don't just come in and say, hey, I want to go walk through the building. But I guess in other areas in Buffalo, that was the practice. We did not practice it here. So we're always pretty much in lockout. The next one, you get to shelter in place, and the board knows about these because you get the immediate messages. And these are when you get it from me where it says we're going into a shelter in place in the high school because we're having a student or someone else be taken out in an ambulance, just so you're aware in case you get a question of what it's about. So those happen 3-4 times a year, I would say. I have to go back and look at all my notes to you, so you should be well aware that those are happening. And then, I don't send a notice when we're doing a lockdown drill or a fire drill, because those are just common practices of 12 have to accomplish in a year of the 2, and, 4 of them are lockdowns, and so they're just continuing things that we do with training.
It's an interesting point, because schools were, as you know, built and designed to be community centers, open, welcome, come on in. And so as you see now through capital projects, and again, this is something that Iroquois was kind of ahead of the curve on, was single point of entry, secure vestibules, the person can enter the building, but they're held there until they show ID, those sorts of things, so absolutely, you're pretty much in a state of lockout all the time. Main difference, it's all teaching on the first floor, close the lock windows. You're in a state of lockout. Okay?
Someone from the public had asked me about the door, the classroom doors, and that if we ever consider putting in like the wedges, so that.
That one, I kind of laugh when I say that one, because what you have is battling, and Kevin will correct me if I'm wrong, 2 different regulations. One is more egress for fire, and one is prevention, common sense prevention for letting someone come into the room. And currently, any type of thing like the wedges and stuff that prevents someone from are illegal in schools. And that's one of the pushes I've been advocating for with safety at the different committees, in you speaking with state representatives of where are more people getting hurt? Is it with a fire, or is it with intruders? And definitely on the first floor with a fire, where you have windows that are easy to get out of, those wedges, and that's typically where an intruder would come in, would make sense to me logically, because you do have an egress to get away from a fire rather than going in the hall to evacuate. But the current law is you have to have 2 points of egress that are always accessible no matter what, and then no matter what clause that paraphrases why we can't have them.
Yeah, that's always been a big topic of conversation. There's all kinds of gadgets in the market. So the superintendent summarized it quite well. And also, law enforcement, if you talk to law enforcement, they do want to be able to enter the states at some point. And so it makes it difficult for them. But yeah, it's dueling regulations. Okay, great, thank you all, nice to see everybody again, thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thanks. Okay. That brings us to item number 3, board discussion and news we're sharing. There's a couple of different items that are listed here. First is the district plan conference, July 26th and 27th.
Now that we have a president and vice president, we're going to finish putting the agenda together. Nora and I have been going through all the notes that we've taken all year of what people have said they'd like to have added. We're going to accomplish getting as many as much as possible. We'll review that with the timeline. I did already reach out at the last meeting. The board asked about super eval coming in, and I've already clarified they will be coming in on the afternoon of the 26th. Hour and a half is what I have been scheduled for, so be sure to have your comments and have your computers, because you can actually log on and practice and see what different things are while he's there. I gave him a summary of what our expectations are, and he says he should be able to meet that no problem. So he will be there.
Wonderful. Anything else that anybody wants to talk about for district conference?
And Bunny breakfast will be there when you come. And lunch. No coffee though. Extra coffee.
Board ambassadors, it is time for us to decide who is going to be the ambassador to which building. Sharon doesn't know yet. Let's see, where do you want to go?
I'd like to go to Belmont.
Oh, okay.
I've been to Belmont.
Just we go to Willow? Wales High School? High school, well, let's do Wales.
Oh, sorry. I can do it.
Yes. Then middle school.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Could we have a, building events here for the lunch ride?
Yeah, why not?
Because we've already done.
For what?
For the lunch ride? Have we done that before, or is it just?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, we've always done two at the middle school, two at the high school, which one would, lose person?
Well, do we think it's a good idea, or?
I do think it's a good idea.
Is it? I'm just thinking about like our purpose was to be out and seeing at community events and to be engaged with. And I'm also just wondering too, if it's bus garage, what about other departments?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, you could do a buildings and grounds, transportation combination between the two, because all the other people, if you're ambassador at Alma Primary, I would hope that, Shannon, who's the cleaner out there during the day, that you would say hi to that individual. Because they do have a very key role. You go in there as you walk around the building, along with, teachers, and if you're at an event, you're thinking, let's say it's a night event, I always make an effort to thank the custodians at night for picking up, cleaning up, and taking care of people, because they're there before and after whatever event is happening.
I'm also thinking that one of the ways that I reach out often is, staff development meeting and the PTO meetings and that, where transportation and building and grounds, they don't have those meetings like that, so.
There does have meetings and transportation throughout the year.
It would be something where maybe with people who are in high school could also be involved in transportation.
It could be, that would be up to the board. I just know,
That makes.
personally going to the transportation department is they're a great group of people. You go over there and if you get there at a certain time, they come in because they're dropping their keys off after the morning runs, and you can talk with just about, anyone you want. Or before they leave on the afternoon, when they're picking up their keys. It's a great group.
So maybe we extend like two to the high school, cover that, one to the middle school.
We have two at the high school,
All right.
middle school. What do you guys think? Maybe one middle school, three at the high school, keep it 2 and 2, but add the buildings, we could do buildings and grounds with the middle school, and transportation with the high school.
Personally, I think it would be better to keep those together, rather
Yeah.
than just split everything up.
Okay. Three at the high school.
See, I would have
Two.
one,
Two at the middle school, two at the high school is good, nice.
yeah, without a doubt, and it's the most populous buildings.
So just means people at the high school have a little bit more responsibility to get into a few more things.
Yeah, and I think transportation and buildings and grounds would be happy if you came in, 2 times a year, one in the fall, one in the spring. And I'm not saying, happy, like, you didn't feel better, but they like to talk to people. They're very social groups. And just that recognition alone that you're stopping in to say hi, I think would mean a lot to them.
So who's going to do those?
Yeah, I think the high school,
So high school and transportation?
high school buildings and ground transportation, all is one.
And they're all close to each other too, so that's when they come to one, it's just literally across the parking lot. When you walk there with the middle school, you get the whole campus.
And I have Louise for the high school and
Tell me that it's good.
I think one of the, transportation and moving around too, I'm at Corolla.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, anyone could.
who is it in middle school?
Just Bob right now.
Just Bob.
And that leaves me, so I'm the last person, so I'll be in middle school.
Thank you.
Who's high school?
Louise.
Louise and Evan have it.
And I'll reach out to Eric, the Director of Transportation, and I'll talk to Dave Carlin, the Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds, and let them know that people will be just stopping in to say hi.
Could we just maybe say different events or something like that?
What was that?
Could we just make it general, like, I really gotta do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we probably
I
all.
would say just follow board policy, since it's up to general, people stop in and let me know, then I can make sure they know, ahead of time, because, the way drivers are, Eric could be out of the office, a lot of drivers could be mechanics in there answering the phone, and definitely with buildings and grounds, they're out and about.
I think in the centralized or in the building.
They would be, yeah. Or they will be. Not will.
So, the next thing on our agenda to talk about is the August NISBA conference. It's the 12th and 13th, the actually it's only the 11th, because it starts so early in the morning. It's in Albany. There was a question of whether members would be allowed to attend that, if the district would pay for it. I am going to it as an employee of Erie County Association of School Boards. The district is not paying for my registration and whatnot. But it does look like a worthwhile conference. So if there was anybody interested in that, this would be the time to say, I'm interested and talk about it. It's the Let's Reconnect conference. And it is, I think, mostly geared towards leadership and moving out of the pandemic and some information. If you recall, there was some stuff on safety. It's sort of like a pre-October convention. It is $100 for registration, and then transportation costs. I thought that somebody had said that they wanted to go, and then realized that I misunderstood the conference you were talking about.
Yeah, I was talking about the one in Syracuse, but I'd be interested in going to that.
So the way our board policy reads, we can go to conferences other than just the October one. So as long as the whole board agrees that the cost of the conference is, it brings value back to the district.
Yeah, just to make it clear about the policy and everything, and I'm looking right now in New York, but there was a section that everyone was just approved. We just, that really just had a discussion, and then board members actually go to the meetings. But it's a discussion to make sure that all board members know what meetings are happening, or what's out there, if someone's going.
And that's if any conference comes?
Pardon?
Does the policy?
Yeah, if there's anything that you see that's coming up that you would like to attend, you bring it to the board and say, I'd like to go. And then they decide if, the board as a whole decides if it looks like something that would bring valuable information back to the district. In this case, I do think that it.
Whilst I'm interested, I just realized what August 13th is. The Iroquois Football Association conference. So,
You're not going to do it.
Sorry, just looking at my calendar. All right. Yeah. And what are the dates for the October?
I want to say 27.
27, 28, 29, I believe.
Okay.
And that's another thing, yes, 27, 28. There are lots of different events that happen both at ECSB and NISBA. It behooves us to get our RSVPs in as quick as possible to Nora so that she can get our registrations set up with those organizations. That has been kind of something that's lapsed in the last few years with COVID and things being virtual and whatnot, and free. They're starting to become paid events again and whatnot. And, so when you know something is coming up that you would like to attend, make sure you let the board know.
And Jim, just so you know, Nora always, first you'll probably get, because you're a board member, you'll get a notice from the organization, and then Nora will send an email, is anyone interested in going?
And Valerie brought up at the dinner that there's several events in Syracuse, so lots of people are acting on this.
Yes, I'm well aware of that.
Oh, we're working on that one.
Well aware of that. So if you are planning on going to the October convention, make sure you let Nora know.
You'll let me know as soon as possible that I can today.
I'm going.
Everyone, the other thing is there is an ECSB event, and it's brand new. It's August 18th. It's called Board and Brews. It is something that you should have seen in your email, if not, watch for it. But it is only open to people who are taking on leadership roles. So it's to the superintendent, district clerk, board president, vice president, and anybody who's serving on an ECASD committee as the representative. If you're the representative and you can't attend, call your alternate and allow them the opportunity to go. So
When is this one?
it's on August 18th. And it's at the Hamburger Brewery.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the other thing that's nice about this particular event is that if you're going, you get to bring your spouse or significant other with you, because it is open to you bringing a guest. Isn't that nice?
Is it all day?
No, it's just a 6:30 to 8:30 in the evening. Okay. Watch your email for that, and that one, unlike all the others where you tell more, that one you actually RSVP directly to ECASB. Because it's summer.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, with our policy, we still need to know, so please still let Nora know.
Anything else, other more discussion, news or share, anything they want to share?
Well, the only thing you might, I can do in our superintendent's report is I did send out the job description for the director of human resource. So I can do it on a superintendent's report, or you can do it now. The last time it was under board discussion.
It was under board discussion because we're trying to condense the agenda to experience
Yeah.
all those people that we wanted to congratulate. So we'll do it under superintendent.
All right, no problem.
Anything else?
I really enjoyed going to graduation this year. It was a very professional, well-organized event. Surprisingly went very quick considering how many graduates there were. And I was able to meet somebody to fall for the first time, so really a good one with that. So congratulations to all the graduates.
And that brings us to the superintendent report.
All right, so the first thing I'll talk about switch my orders graduation, and I think Heather did a great job. It really is a special event, and to see all the parents and everyone there. And also being able to do it virtually for those that couldn't attend. Whatever the precautions they were taking care of was a great thing to it, and what she said is really, really special when people can come out there and hand them diplomas. I enjoy shaking every student's hand as they go across the stage, and it just brings a smile on my face. So congratulations to all the seniors, and congratulations to the families for the support they gave their children to make it through onto the next stage of their life. The next thing I want to talk about is a capital project update, and we can keep putting pictures on the website. We're going to be uploading another time-lapse video up there where you'll actually see the bleachers going up in this time-lapse video. We're starting to pour today some of the foundation for the entranceway. Everything's going well. I'm going to knock on wood and say that it's on time right now. Doing very well. There is some concern for some concrete walkways. They just did some testing of the cylindrical samples they take, and they broke at a lower strength. So what they're going to do now is take core samples of actually the sidewalks themselves to see what the breaking strength is. And I did talk with the people, not only our construction manager, but the contractor that's leading it over there. And they said that really won't impact the timeline. They'll just have to figure that out, so we should be in great shape for that. So that's a decision we'll make. Once I get those core samples, I'll make that decision of what to do based on the advice of our engineers. The roof has started, the middle school science project, science rooms have started. Some of them are actually a little bit ahead of schedule, getting knock on wood. But go and see on the website the pictures and the updates. What's that? So I'm going to go with the European trip, right? I worked to job description.
Before we go there again, so when will the first event for the field?
I was actually talking to the athletic director there, and this first event will probably be students practicing on it. Then she's working on a grand opening plan, and there's a couple different ideas going around. One where It's just a general grand opening, and that each sport can have their own. Trying to look at that in the timeline, we're thinking in August, because that's going to be done, we're thinking before any game takes place, and that way everyone can come and celebrate it, and it's not towards one sport, but then every sport can have their own. But again, she's going to be working out with the coaches and looking at that, so that's very preliminary. It's not set in stone or anything yet. Idea I was thinking, was like homecoming week, then I found out homecoming week was in October. I think that's very late to have that one, so I kind of crossed that off in my own mind. I would want something for the beginning of the season. The European trip, I did reach out to Rich Violante the other day. They did face typical travel plans of where you show up at the airport and your plane is delayed. And then one of the buses in the air conditioner belt, but they switched buses with that. But they are over in Europe, and I did get the text back from Rich this morning that it's going a great trip, and there's some postings on Facebook that really seem to say they are really enjoying themselves out there too. So that's great, and I'm so glad, and in 1 year I didn't want to make it on that trip, because I think it's a great experience, and I do love field trips and students going and experiencing things outside of our little corner of the world. The fireworks, they did have the fireworks, as always on the 4th of July over here. I'm sure it's a beautiful celebration. I was not there to witness it. I did get a couple calls from citizens, and they did express some concerns. Just it seemed a little different this year than other years, so I'm going to be reaching out to the town supervisor to express those concerns, and just so he's aware of it, because it is a town event. We do have all the liability and everything from them with their insurances, so they're taking on that liability. I'm sure he's already aware, but I'm going to make sure that he's aware of what happened there. I think some of it is just people in society changing to feel they can do what they want, where they want, when they want. And we just need to have the right support there during the event to make sure people understand you have to respect other people and their wishes too. So now, if there's no questions on any of that, we'll move on to the Director of Human Resources, job description, and I would be looking for the board to say yes, it met what they were looking for, it made sense to them, and then I'll be looking to post for that, and hopefully, definitely by August, I'd like to have the selected candidate coming to the board. I'd like to actually have a special meeting, because I'm thinking the individual we hire will probably have a 30 or 60-day window in which they have to be in the position. So if we wait until the regular August board meeting, then we would have to, they would be starting to the end of October. I'd like them starting sooner than that. So if we have a special meeting, it would be short, and typically a lot of hires and stuff during July. We have a lot of those done. So I really think it would be a very quick meeting for basically for this sole purpose of this and maybe one other agenda item with personnel, and that would be it. So.
It was much more than what I expected.
One person said when they read it, that's a full-time job, who's doing it now?
I just wanted, general, but I thought it was very good, very comprehensive, and it's, with the changes that have taken place over the years and the demands that are being placed on our administration, we always talk about, our student population and right sizing this and that, and we do that on a consistent basis. We're always reviewing our personnel needs. But these other demands have gotten to a point that people that we hired to run our district and run our buildings are not able to accomplish their job because they're being pulled in so many different directions. So if we can offload some of those responsibilities, because it's not just gonna help out the Doug, it's gonna help out, all of our building administrators, central office. So I'm in support.
The one, I guess to piggyback on what you were saying, the one item in there where it said taking care of mandated state trainings. Mary Jo takes care of it, does a really good job of the instructional trainings and that, but there's a lot of trainings that we're putting in place now that don't deal with instruction. And I think just that is growing And I think there's going to be more mandates for the state, coming down, with that. So it would help me, it helped with Mary Jo, what she has to take care of, it would help with John, and definitely would help with all the administrators, with what they have to do daily.
I think that it would mention to be very helpful too from just to our teachers and staff too, because and nothing against anybody who's doing any of the roles. This is a person whose personnel is their primary role. This is a person who's really there to help the district and the staff to negotiate complicated things that everybody just wants to do right, So I think that having that person is a really good resource for people to go to about.
And there was a teacher that came to me yesterday that it would fit perfectly into what you just said, where it was 2-3 hours, which I had no trouble meeting them for doing that. But then that would lead for consistency of being able to go out, are there other people in this situation, and then have greater support for the staff in that area.
I like on the posting that you said that they need to attend all Board of Education meetings. So it's a good thing to be aware of what's going on.
It's a major thing we have here, so I know the board hires me and everyone else works for the superintendent, but I think him to more be aware of where staff is. Because there are comments that are made that we even talked about during my evaluation that we're trying to address and make better, that needs focus on it, and needs someone that has time to go out there and be able to report back on the progress of that to the board.
Hopefully they can't talk because of so.
Of course, they won't talk, there won't be an executive session. But there are things that they can talk about with the trainings, the generality, there are trends we're seeing, which they wouldn't be able to identify as a person, that we most definitely talk about in open session. No, but you're right, it'll be a fine balance there. And then if we're moving forward with that, I would need a representative from the board, like a board representative to be on the interview committee if someone could. And we're looking at July 28, 29.
July 28th and 29th. It's right after the district committee.
And I'm saying 2 days because depending on the number of applicants that qualify, it might only be 1 day, it might only be the 28th. So if we have about 5 candidates, 6, that would be on 1 day. If we start to get 7 highly qualified people, like we did with the Alma principal, that would roll into 2 days or 1.5 days. I don't want to cut short an interview of this magnitude.
I think the 29th. We haven't, I think it was just the 29th.
Depending on the number of people.
Right. I can do the 28th.
I'm in town for those days. They're doing it.
Well, it could be that Chuck will do it if it's 1 day and Jane will do it if it's 2 days.
I would love to go to that town. Act right like this.
I was just saying, oh,
Right after.
so if it's 1 day, Chuck, 2 days, Jim.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
I'm good about this.
I thought the new person had to come to every hiring. I mean, they have no input though, they have to stand in the background.
Do you need to do anything that gives you the official go-ahead, or is?
No, this is really, it's not a motion or anything like that. Your official action is when I recommend the hiring to you, that you approve or deny the hiring.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then we are at recognition of guests. Are there any guests that wish to be there? Okay. That brings us to discussion for agenda items 8.01 through 20.09. Is there any discussion on our consensus agenda?
I'd just like to point out that we do have 2 major bargaining units in this agenda, the CSCA and the IFA unions. And as always, they do really love to represent their union members. So it's really a tough negotiation. By tough, I mean we're trying to balance fiscal responsibility with also that. And I want to say both groups really understand the bigger picture They're great to work with, they do represent their members well, but they also do ultimately care about Iroquois. And so that balance, I think we're one of the few districts that really, we use interest-based negotiation, and we really look to have the interest of everyone taken care of during these. So appreciation to all the work, appreciation to the board members that sat on those. Let's see, it was Heather and Chuck in the one group, and Sharon and Michelle in the other group. So thank you for your hours upon hours of sitting there. Greatly appreciated with that, so thank you.
Also, I will be abstaining on the consensus agenda because of relationships and.
Two, any other discussion? Great. Is there any motion to request or withdraw specific items from the agenda? Request to add specific items to the agenda? Then can I have a motion for the consensus agenda?
So moved.
And all in favor? Opposed? And 2 abstaining. Motion carries. And then we have the consent financial matters. That's part of this, so.
All right, so the recognition, yeah,
Oh, right. What?
I don't know why that would be there, the consensus agenda.
I think this was the motion to withdraw and agree to add, and this is where.
Yeah, that's where we withdraw, it goes to 20.9, so. Yep, that's all, 20.9.
Alright. Next page, so that brings us to our
Recognition of that.
recognition of guests, again, here. Do we need an executive session? Nope. Then we are ready to adjourn, and we'll move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, now for a lengthy
All in
discussion.
favor? To adjourn. Motion carries unanimously.
Thanks so much.
We are adjourned at 9:34 a.m.